Hello, and welcome once again. J76NY here, and we are back with Romus, King Romus Taurus of Rizia. This is Suzerain, the Kingdom of Rizia DLC. We are continuing with our story here. We've got one item to deal with before we get into the main event over here. A new report released by the Rizia Imperii Business Women's Association, called REBA, reveals that despite the great strides our kingdom has made for women's rights, inequality persists in job market. Men still earn significantly more than women, a gap that the REBA report suggests can be surmounted with the help of government intervention. I have got a lot more on my mind than that at the moment. Geopolitico says United Quintana's SSS monitors Geopolitical's Kiao office. We already read this. I don't know why it's popping up again. It seems like when I save or when I exit out of the game, it goes back to where I was right before I saved. So, check the regional map. Don't see anything need to deal with on the regional map. It's the royal visit to the Scarlett Songbird Festival. Sounds interesting. Let's go see what that's all about. I wonder if it's like Burning Man. Every spring, the seaside town of Sallabes celebrated the Scarlett Songbird Festival. The vibrantly colored songbirds spent their winters in Vina, near the southern part of what used to be the Mauser Empire. Every spring, like clockwork, they flew back over the Gulf of Mordia to settle in Sallabes. It's definitely not Burning Man. It actually has something to do with birds. The return was celebrated with music, dancing, and lavish banquets, opened by a speech from the reigning Duke of Sallabes. It was traditional for the King of Rizia and his family to attend. So here I am. The sun hung low in the sky over the Arena Sallabes, a 100-year-old open-air venue perched directly on the beach. Vina and I sat waiting in the royal box as cameras flashed in our direction. My daughter impatiently tapped her fingers on the arm of her chair. We hadn't spoken much since Izza. If you remember, that's because, well, we went hunting with Uncle Hugo and Cousin Rico, and things didn't go too good. So, don't worry, kid, it'll start soon. Typical impatient teenager. Program announced a special guest. I wonder who it'll be. A fanfare sounded from the pit orchestra and an announcer stepped behind the podium. This year, he said, the speech would be given not by the Duke of Sallabes, but by the heir of House Sazon. The heir of House Sazon? Not good. That's the one we almost had killed. Well, before he was even born. The audience roared as Manus Sazon got on stage. Sorry about that, I had a cat to move. This was no longer the nervous young man I'd met in Porte Drazan. He'd radiated confidence as he stepped up to the podium. Greetings, Sallabes. He waited for the applause to subside, then held up a hand for the audience to listen. The entire arena felt silent. The story of the Scarlett Songbird is a story about trust. Every year, the tiny feathered creature travels thousands of kilometers to reach our shores. He doesn't know what perils await him on the way to his destination, nor what sort of welcome will await him here. Yet he flies on because something deep in his soul compels him to do so. An inner voice tells him, this is your home. I wish he'd get to the point. This is so maudlin. Why is the crowd eating it up? Is he talking about himself? Vina. I just got shushed. Vina glared at me, then turned her full attention back to the man on stage. I think she has a thing for him. At least they're not cousins. And what of those who wait for him? They have no idea where he's been, or how he knows to navigate to this exact same spot each time. Still, they gather here, scanning the skies for the first sign of his return. As if on cue, a solitary bird came flying towards us from over the horizon. Its plumage was bright red. A tear rolled down Manus's cheek. Trust. The only way any of this works. Even when we've been given no reason. Even when our faith is tested over and over. A second bird followed, then a third. It's only when we place our trust in one another that we are able to find our way. The audience gasped as the sky over our heads filled with hundreds and hundreds of kingbirds, their crimson feathers magnificently lit by the setting sun. Keep your head down, Vina. Too much trust will get you a face full of shit. I know, it's funny, isn't it? Have you ever seen anything so beautiful? Timing the speech perfectly with the migration? What a cheap trick. Giant flock of birds migrating from a distant land. Where have I seen that before? We'll just... Yeah. It's breathtaking. Vina sniffled. She had tears in her eyes as well. Once the sun had set and the birds had gone to roost, we made our way to the VIP reception in the neighboring pavilion. A big band was playing jazz music as Vina and I entered. We immediately found ourselves surrounded by local officials, celebrities, and members of the press. It was nearly an hour before I was able to sit down. Almost as soon as I parked myself in a chair, I noticed Manus Sazon making his way over to me. That was some speech today. I see why your constituents love you. Seats reserved for my daughter. Not in the mood to dance, Mr. Sazon? We'll go with that one. Manus smiled uncomfortably. I'm better off on the debate floor than the dance floor, Your Majesty. Actually, I've been hoping to speak with you for a long time. Why? What exactly is it that you want? To be perfectly honest, I've been avoiding you. Too much bad blood. You know, I could have killed your mom, right? You would not be here right now. So why didn't you request an audience with me? Sorry, I haven't visited the House of Delegates yet. It's been a busy time. Why didn't you request an audience? You gave me a look that was equal parts hurt and puzzled. I did, through your Grand Vizier. The message must have gotten lost. But since we're both here right now, I know what you and your family think of me, and I know that my position in government is symbolic at best. But I still think we have a chance to accomplish great things for this country. Who's speaking to me right now? The heir of House Sazon or the Speaker of the Rizian People's Party? Good question. Manus Sazon. What you have in mind, boy? Well, Your Majesty, I joined the House of Delegates because of Lucas Sazon. Because my father's rash acts of violence robbed Rizia of the peaceful transition it deserved. The remaining Sazons and I are in agreement. Our citizens need not shed blood to be granted a voice. The kind of change you're talking about doesn't happen peacefully. Look at how many corpses of the century of revolution left in its wake. The people have a voice. That's what the House of Delegates is for. A peaceful transition to what? The remaining Sazons, including your mom. Peaceful transition to what? Manus traced the rim of his wineglass with his finger. Rizia always has the framework in place to become a true constitutional monarchy. A place where citizens have a greater say in the lawmaking process, but the royals keep their status and influence. I know I am taking a risk by suggesting this to you, but I believe that unless a change is made, we may face another uprising. I'm sure you're aware that removing any of the monarch's powers would invite the wrath of my relatives. Are you trying to threaten me? Why? The people of Rizia have everything they want, and they want more. I'll give them more. Second uprising will not happen during my reign. I do not doubt the strength of your regime, your majesty, but the commoners are tired of a ruling class that places its own desire above their own. Oh. I agree with the idea of reforming Rizia and empowering our legislative body. It is my wish that we work together to make it a reality. No. I'm looking forward to working more closely with your party to better serve our people, but changing the entire system of government, we probably won't go that far. And I suppose your solution to that would be to make yourself prime minister. What the hell do you mean by that? I've only ever had my people's needs at heart. We should end this conversation before I'm obliged to have you arrested for treason. We'll give him the political answer. A tentative smile appeared on Manus's face. I understand, Your Majesty. Of course, my party would be thrilled to have your ear. Would be honored to see you at the next House of Delegates session. Sure, why not? I'll be there. With a smile, he stood up and pushed back his chair. I've taken up enough of your time. If you'll excuse me, I'll freshen up my drink. He turned around to head to the bar when came face to face with Vina, who was returning to our table. Her face was slightly flushed. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Sazon. Nothing to excuse, Your Highness. I hope you're enjoying your time in Sallabes. I was just speaking to the bartender. He's still trying to get the rest of his family out of Dirtia. I told him I'd see what I could do. Manus smiled warmly. That's very noble of you, but there are thousands like him, and not all of them are lucky enough to catch the Princess of Rizia at a benevolent moment. Do not address my daughter with such impudence, Mr. Sazon. He's right. We've got to tackle this problem at the root, not by granting special favors. How drunk are you, Vina? We can't go around making promises to random cater waiters. Forgive me, Mr. Sazon, but the princess and I have really got to be going. We'll go with this one. Vina ignored my remark. Bitch. Your speech was beautiful, Mr. Sazon. Actually, it reminded me of an essay of Queen Liza's from 1883. On social contracts? Yes, that one was the inspiration. What were the others? Band began playing Sweetheart in Ventry City, an upbeat tune that had recently reached us from Arcasia. You know what? Tell me after this dance. That's very upfront of you. She took a step closer to Manus and extended a hand to him. He looked at me questioningly. Sorry, but no. People will gossip. You don't need my permission. Have fun out there. One dance, then we go home. And the reason why I went with that one was because I'm okay with her dancing with him. But I don't want to encourage any type of further fraternization with a rival house. And someone we almost had killed before he was born. I might remind you. Vina beamed. Manus took her hand and rose from his seat. Wait. This is faster than the dances I've been learning. Do you know the steps? As a matter of fact, I do. I'll walk you through it. He led Vina out onto the dance floor. Cameras flashed as the two of them started dancing. I wondered if the photographers were capturing the look in my daughter's eyes. It was the same one her mother had given me during our first dance together. Oh boy. All right. Two big things going on here. Galcondis pilgrims demand access at Morella border. Meeting with Rusty Montoro. Okay, let's read the news. Sazon heir gives speech about trust, but can he be trusted? In a recent display of audacity, Rizian People's Party leader and House Sazon heir Manus Sazon choose to grandstand about trust at the Scarlett Songbird Festival, the largest annual event in Brennus. The choice of topics seems steeped in irony given his well-documented skepticism towards the monarchy that forms the bedrock of our kingdom. In front of an audience that included His Majesty King Romus and Her Highness Princess Vina, he gave an emotional speech that left many Sazon supporters teary-eyed, but that left us at the Herald wondering about his true motivations. One couldn't help but wonder if the decision to grant the opening speech to young Manus instead of the mayor of Sallabes was an attempt by House Sazon to capitalize on a royal event for political gain. Rufus Gragg's royal gossip. Vina dances at last. Well, now we know what it takes to get Her Highness off her seat and into the ballroom floor. A request from the dashing and dangerous young heir of House Sazon. VIP visitors to this year's Scarlett Songbird Festival were treated to the sight of Princess Vina and Duke Manus, making goo-goo eyes. Oh boy. Just a polite dance or something more. Stay tuned. Geopolitik. President Walker boosts welfare, faces economic challenge. President Dwight Walker's strategic choice to swell Arcasia's welfare spending through deficit financing has emerged as a double-edged sword, quelling social unrest but catapulting the nation's debt-to-GDP ratio to the brink at 90%. The fiscal gambit has earned political dividends, quashing protests and buoying Walker's approval ratings, yet has simultaneously contributed to a dip in public support for Charles Devereux of the Reformist Union. The Walker administration now faces the daunting task of upholding social welfare commitments while steering the Arcasian economy through an increasingly precarious financial landscape. Let's do this first here. Galconda's pilgrims demand access at the Morello border. A considerable congregation of devout Galcondas, pilgrims from Dirtia and Morelia, have congregated at the Point Dart border crossing seeking entry into Rizia for their sacred pilgrimage. Allowing these pilgrims to cross into Rizia could boost global image as a bastion of tolerance and compassion. However, these groups may intend to visit holy sites that are currently restricted under our laws. Well, let's see. I'm not seeing anything. Let's just type it. Nothing pops up. I don't think I should let them do that. I think the Galcondas are kind of the kind of the splinter group of our religion. But I am trying to boost Rizia's image as well. I deny it. Oh boy. Maybe I should have let him in. A little late. Morello condemns Rizia's border policy. A heartless decision that forces Morello to deal with the fallout. Rizia Oil and Gas continues assessment of the new gas field. The Rizia Oil and Gas Corporation is continuing its assessment of the newly discovered gas field off the country's coast, tentatively nicknamed Aureus. In cooperation with Pelesian scientists, a team of geologists has begun seismic surveys to determine the field's exact borders. It is expected that these surveys will be completed within the next several months. All right. So we're going to meet with Rusty Morello. On the banks of the Zapana River in Bronaz stood Palace Verana. Almost as opulent as my own palace, it had once served as a summer residence for my ancestors, the Rubaz family. Take a look at the Rubaz family. Reigned over the kingdom of Rizia from its establishment in 1615 until the War of Rizian Succession in 1805. Today was the home of Rossello Rusty Montoro, the CEO of Rizian Royal Gold, and the wealthiest commoner in the country. I stepped out onto the deck of the Riziana as the yacht approached the palace's private dock. Hugo and Elena were there already, gazing at the grounds. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Palace Verana, without its water garden, is no palace at all. I think it's an improvement myself, but what do you make of it, Your Majesty? I looked in the direction she was indicating. The water garden, once a tranquil oasis filled with blossoming flowers and gently burbling fountains, had been replaced with a gigantic gold-tiled swimming pool. Seems practical. Why don't we have one of those? How did a man like him take over the most powerful corporation in Rizia? He's got a knack for being in the right place at the right time. Legend has it he worked his way up from regional mine supervisor via a series of backroom deals and boardroom betrayals. Suddenly, a group of armed men exited the palace in single file. They positioned themselves at equal intervals around the dock. They followed us with their eyes as we disembarked and walked towards the palace veranda. As I passed the largest guard, I noticed he was wearing a badge that read Palantor Security Solutions. You are Arcasian? He stared at me with a look of non-comprehension. Rusty rose from where he'd been sitting and rushed over to us. Antoine, that's no way to treat our royal visitors. Looks like a farmer. The guard reluctantly bowed to me. Rusty ushered us past him and showed us to a set of chairs. The gold magnate's red hair was streaked with gray, but his eyes had a youthful mischief about them. On behalf of all of us at the esteemed Rizian Royal Gold Corporation, I do hereby extend my cordial greetings. He trailed off with a grin. Heck, I was never one for formalities. Welcome to my palace, Your Majesty. You say I'm welcome. Your guards send a different message. That's not entirely inaccurate. Stick to the pleasantries. Name's Rusty. Calling me Mr. Montoro is like trying to put an elevator in an outhouse. Okay. You turn to Hugo and Elena. Your Grace, Madam Treasurer, haven't had a sit down with you two since the last man wore the crown. My uncle gritted his teeth. You must mean my honorable brother, His Majesty King Valero. May he rest in peace. Now, Hugo Rusty paid his respect at the funeral like everyone else. He shook Rusty's hand. He beckoned for us to sit as his butler brought over water and fresh fruit. How's business? We'll get to that, Your Majesty. Settle down, have a drink first. Shame Her Highness couldn't make it. Too occupied with her latest beau. Yeah. One dance does not a beau make. Well, thank you not to speculate about Princess Vina's romantic prospects. Agreed. We're keeping the topic of my daughter's love life within the family. There we go. Well, alright. I'll cut to the chase then. He sat back and unbuttoned the top button of his shirt. You know, there would be no Rizia without Rizian royal gold. Yes, our G has contributed greatly to Rizian's wealth. Don't overinflate your importance. We have other resources. Or, I'd say the partnership between your company and the monarchy has benefited both of us equally. Sure. My point being, fair to say that what concerns me concerns this country. And right now what concerns me is this. He picked up a piece of paper from the table next to him. It was a flyer with a few sentences written in both Rizian and Wezek. Supervisors at my mines are picking up hints that the workers are holding after-hour meetings on the subject of unsafe conditions. First step to unionizing? Don't know if I'd go that far, but meeting workers' demands is like feeding zoo animals. The more you give them, the hungrier they get. Have there been any accidents lately? Anything that might have triggered this? Rusty snorted. Accidents have been a part of this job since the dawn of time. Used to say you weren't a real miner until you were missing a finger. You ever work in the mines yourself? Not extensively, but I've swung a pickaxe or two in my day. Hugo cleared his throat. You have a request of His Majesty, Mr. Montoro? Or have you merely invited us here to complain? Not complain, warn. I'm not going to change a thing about the way my mines operate, so sooner or later this is going to land in your lap. Our RG's value has been going down since we lost Zeal. New safety regulations might sound fine and dandy, but they'd be a death blow to our bottom line. We'd still have the Meftian International Free Trade Zone. How much revenue would you lose? Your company will rebound when we get Zeal back. There. I sure hope that's in the cards, Your Majesty. That little nub of land is home to some of the fattest gold veins my company's ever found. No way Wayland could mine it all in 25 years. You're saying that RRG's mining operations in the regions could pick up where they left off? Yes, ma'am. Assuming we got it back without making too much of a mess. Aren't most of your miners labor hands from foreign countries? How much revenue would you stand to lose? Hard to say. Implementing the regulations themselves would cost a pretty penny. And what do you think will happen if we pass these costs on to our trading partners? They'll hit the road faster than my first ex-wife. We have been seeing more global competition on the gold market, unfortunately. But for now, our product is of high enough quality that Rumberg is willing to pay more for it. Yes, but if the price rises further still, I'd rather not admit to it, but Mr. Montaro may have a point. We have the Meftium International Free Trade Zone. Well, that's the other thing. I'm sure you all know about Alma Sultana. He's the current Prime Minister of the Republic of Morella, who we just pissed off, and the leader of the left-wing coalition, Morellian Unified Front. Malionovus, dangerous figure. First female prime minister of Morella. Right, Your Majesty. Banning propaganda in Rizia won't stop what's happening on her side of the border. Woman's never picked up a chisel in her life, and she suddenly knows how to run the MITs. She started calling for regulations over there as well, or worse, nationalization. Morelia doesn't have unilateral power over the international trade zone. Rizia, Lesbia, and Volksland all have a say. And guess which one of those Miss Sultana has been cozying up to? Not us. That's for sure. If she and Hagel get their way, Rizia will either lose its mining rights or our boys will have to pray to Malionev before going to work every morning. No matter what, our revenue from the region takes a hit. We should have the right to determine how gold is mined in our own country. That still leaves us in Lesbia. It's hard to say if we can count on Lesbia's cooperation. Of course, they abhor Volksland, but we don't have the friendliest of history with them either. We'll have to keep a close eye on this. Aren't most of your miners foreigners? They're fixing to have it that way, yes. The folks pushing for these restrictions, regulations, are a mix of labor hands and honest-to-goodness Rizians, with some support from the Sazons to boot. I see what they're going for, I really do, but give them everything they would want, would damn near break me. A little extreme, don't you think? I agree we shouldn't impose more regulations than necessary, but investing in safer and healthier employees could lead to a profit in the long term, foreigners included. Rusty took a big bite out of a watermelon. Look, you know me, I don't mince words. I think you already realize that it's in both of our interests for you to back me up in this squabble. But hey, I'll sweeten the deal. Keep your administration's nose out of our RG business, and I'll sell you back the share I took from your father. Lena pushed her chair back and stood up. Going to recuse myself from this conversation. Where's the ladies' room? Just inside. You've never sat on a solid gold toilet. You're in for a treat. She forced a smile as a butler escorted her out. Hugo, Rusty, and I glanced at each other. Seems like RRG is in trouble anyway. Of course, we're eager to sell it off. Trying to bribe the government. You're willing to sell us back 15% of RRG just for refusing to pass regulations? Trying to bribe the government, eh? Name's Rusty. What I'm suggesting is completely above board. It's a little handshake between shareholders. Give me one reason why I shouldn't have you beheaded. Wow. If I wanted to sell some of Rizia's stake in RRG, I suppose you'd grant me that as well. More gold revenue for our kingdom is tempting, but not if it comes at the expense of workers' lives. You're a man after my own heart, Rusty. I think we're going to work well together. Be a man of the people on this one. You've been listening to the naysayers too much, Your Majesty. We miners know how to protect our own. I won't keep wasting your time. Do we have a deal or don't we? Make sure no new regulation passes on mining, and you'll let the kingdom alter its stake in RRG, except bribe. I must refuse. If our workers want protection, I will oblige them. I'm going to go neutral. Well, there is this option here, too. I'll keep my hands off your mining operation, Rusty, but I won't accept what you're offering either. I think, God, this is one of those hard ones. This kind of just leaves it kind of open-ended, so I could decide later. But I think a decision now might be in the works here. I'm going to go with number 4. I'm going to stay out of the mining, the gold mining. But I'm not going to take the bribe. Suit yourself, Your Majesty. The offer still stands if you change your mind. That was colder than I expected. Are you gentlemen finished? Hugo practically sprang from his seat. Been a delight, truly, but we must be headed back to the Porte Drazon. Here I was about to ask you to stay for lunch. So soon, Your Majesty? Let's have lunch with the guy, why not? Sorry, Your Grace. Got to pretend to be civil to me a while longer. Yeah, kinda. Hugo and Elena sat back down as the butler began bringing out the midday meal. Okay. See what we have here. Football industry shows signs of stagnation and a royal visit to Monteclair. In the news, Erdmarg signals joining non-alignment movement. Kingdom of Erdmarg announced a decisive pivot towards the non-alignment movement, making a strategic diversification from its historical alignments. This move, seen as a bid to craft alternative geopolitical paths distinct from neighboring Rumburg, challenges the prevailing influence of both Grace and the ATO. Surveying nears completion on potentially massive new gas fields in West Antician. The gas field in the western Antician Sea could contain massive new reserves, according to a geologist source interviewed by Geopolitical. Kingdom of Rizia and the Grand Duchy of Pales are still surveying the border of the recent discovered field, with conclusive ownership still yet to be determined. However, all signs already point to the resource of great strategic significance. All right. So our gas mining thing might be going pretty good here. That's this here. The Rizian Football Federation has expressed concerns over the diminishing quality and appeal of the National Football League, particularly the second and third tiers. This decline not only impacts the cultural fabric of Rizia, but also poses economic challenges. The Federation is contemplating various strategies to invigorate the industry, ranging from increased funding and marketing efforts to introduce foreign talent to enhance competitiveness. We will ensure... What does this entail, actually? It doesn't say anything about budgetary issues, but we'll ensure it. Make sure the people get their soccer. Third League Football Club, RFC FC Valencois, has raised the alarm of falling ticket sales, with the club on good days unable to sell out even half of their stadium. This reduction in sales is affecting the club's ability to invest in its youth infrastructure, which traditionally has provided a multitude of players for Rizia's top teams. Okay, so that's not good. Let's go to Monteclair, see what's up in Monteclair. From anywhere in the city of Monteclair, you could look high into the hills and see the ruins of Fortress Azaro. Excuse excuse me. Expanded and fortified over the centuries, it has served as the stronghold for the city's inhabitants from the early years of the Resonant Empire until its destruction in the War of Rizian Succession. Today, the ruins served as a symbol of Monteclar's resilience and that of its governing house. Perhaps that was why Lucita invited me here for a tour and a private talk. For safety's sake, a wooden walkway had been constructed over the crumbling remains of the parapets. Lucita and I walked along until it came to the northwest corner. How do you like the view, Your Majesty? From here we could look down into the valley where the provincial capital sprawled across the fast-flowing Elka River and up into the foothills of the mountains opposite us. Fine, I always prefer the ocean over the mountains myself. Why'd you bring me up here, Duchess Azaro? Imagine how this fortress must have looked 1,000 years ago. Incredible, isn't it? The fortress was closed off for our visit, but a crowd had gathered just outside its walls. We waved down to them, then turned away, following the walkway towards the former armory. Our aides and guards stayed a respectful distance behind. Not even the Markians could destroy this place, you know. Only when Rizia's noble families turned against each other did it finally fall. She paused and turned to face me. It took years for the Azaro and Torres families to repair their bond. I hope our houses will remain harmonious through your reign. As long as you keep your family in line, they will. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. You and your relatives have sworn fealty to the crown, have they not? Is that why you brought me here, Duchess Azaro? Nothing means more to me than keeping the favor of House Azaro. Great to hear you say that. You get a little flirtatious here. I do have designs on her for King Romus. If that's possible, if that's an option, we are definitely going to go that route. He is a bachelor. Might be gay, but we won't know unless we try. Your father and mine were close, Your Majesty. General Tadius told me that he felt free to express his true opinions to the king with no fear of repercussions. She bit her lip. She seemed uncharacteristically nervous. Like it if you and I had a similar relationship. Nobody should feel like they should have to hold back their opinions. What makes you think you deserve that? You've barely been on the council a year. How can we when we barely even know each other? It's a little upfront. Be honest with her. Thank you. As he was smiling, but I registered slight disappointment in her eyes. Precisely your willingness to speak your mind that makes you such a valuable... Here we go. This is where the wagon can come off the... Oh no. About myself? Seem to be searching for words. That depends, Your Majesty. What would you like to know? Why did you follow in the Azaro family footsteps? You could have chosen a life, your own path in life. Why aren't you married? You have any hobbies? As an Azaro, you should have been paired off the day you came of age. Kind of curious. My path was chosen for me after my uncle was killed in the uprising. Even as a young girl, I knew that marked a turning point. My noble blood didn't make me safe anymore. Those days are over. We don't have to live in fear of another uprising. The real threat isn't from the commoners, it's from foreign powers who want to destroy our way of life. The words ring true. I had the exact same thought after my kidnapping. And you didn't feel the drive to do something about it? to armor yourself against such threats in the future? I joined the military so I never got caught by surprise like that again. They're going to make me ask it, aren't they? Have any hobbies? I've always enjoyed archery when I've had time for it. And my father and I used to play chess together. We still do when he has a lucid moment. Who wins? Oh. No needlepoint or calligraphy. Chess is a silly game. Maybe we could play some chess sometime. She gave me a taunting look. Prepared to lose, Your Majesty. I know, Noah, I know. They're going to make me ask this person why she's not married. Why aren't you married? She grimaced. They had a match chosen for me, of course, but my father allowed me to break off the engagement when I joined the military. By the time I got out, I was considered too old to be of use in the marriage arena. Oh boy, look at these. Oh man. That would be safe. That would be bold. I guess that's all in how she... That's a little too personal. Flattery. Oh, if she'd respond well to that, though. Oh, can't believe I'm having such a hard time with this one. What would Jesus do? Oh, who knows? He should be swarmed with suitors. Well, we'll go that way. Wry smile formed on her face. I'm not so pathetic as to base my self-worth on what men think of me, but thank you for the compliment. Do you have any other questions of a less intimate nature? I think I might have just blown my chance. I hope your curiosity has been satisfied. Far from it, Duchess. You still remain an inscrutable mystery to me. Anything you want to know about me? Now that you mention it. Turnabout is fair play, Your Majesty. Why aren't you married? I'm terrified at the idea of loving someone that much again, only to lose them. I'm still looking for a woman who can handle me. Romance isn't easy as a royal. You can never tell who truly loves you and who's just grasping for wealth and power. If this were me answering this question, I'd be all about that. I'm going to go with it. Why not? Falling in love is like heading into battle. You've got to know what you're up against and protect yourself accordingly. It's not how it works. You can't fall in love if you're holding a part of yourself back. Don't much care for discussions about love. What are your feelings on the Gilgamesh Manifesto? What the fuck? That's not how it works. Giving all of yourself to a lover allows them to have absolute power over you. I refuse to subjugate myself to anybody. Corner of her mouth twitched. Except my king, of course. There we go, we're in. But we better move on to what I wanted to say. My house and I had questions regarding your recent meeting in Sallabes. Sources say that you were quite deep in conversation with House Sazon heir. It's all strategic. Without the Sazons on my side, won't be able to prevent another uprising. We were speaking of repairing the bond between our houses. As you yourself said, Rizia can only be strong if all of its royal families stand together. The Sazons were never a royal family, just a group of merchants who fancied themselves higher than their true station. You know the entire house is still suspected to have ties to Arcasia, right? That isn't surprising. Arcasia has eyes and ears everywhere. They and their allies have spent the better part of this century trying to undermine us. I should have gone with those other options. Damn. All the more reason not to trust that man around your daughter. Perhaps I'll require your assistance with this in the future. Not a matter of national security. My daughter is allowed to consort with whomever she wants. Really, you'd understand that as a modern woman. Maybe I'll need your help. I'm just looking out for national security, as is my job. We had come to a small grassy patch in the shade of the fortress southern wall. He gestured for me to sit down. I really should have gone the other way with this. I had one more thing I wanted to bring up while we were alone. When I took over my father's position on the Royal Council, he gave me a trove of his old files. Wedged between standard purchase orders and internal security reports, I found this. She reached into her pocket and unfolded a thin square of paper. On it was a map of Pales. Overlaying the outline of the Grand Duchy were arrows, diagrams of tanks and battalions, and hastily scribbled instructions. Some of them were in my father's handwriting. Look at the date, 1949. Well, they were plotting another attempt on Pales. That's not surprising. Gibberish? Work of two sad, deluded old men. Why did my father not tell me about this? It was still a work in progress when he died, I assumed. This plan would have ended in a complete rout, at least with the military of the time. All glory to King Valero, but perhaps it's fortunate that he died before this could be carried out. How dare you imply my father's death was a fortunate occurrence? Pains me to say this, but yes, better that he died rather than order more soldiers to their deaths. Maybe he wanted me to do it. She frowned. Or the plan was scrapped when they realized it would never work. Timing wasn't right to conquer Pales in the 20s, but perhaps now. You too? My family would be with you, of course. The Azaros never got over losing their access to the sea. But I don't see any merit in taking Pales back, at least not for historic reasons. Are you saying there's other reasons? She looked away. I don't want to sound paranoid, but with Lesbia and ATO and Morelia becoming closer to Volksland and the CSB, I do wonder whether our neighbors will get swallowed up in the superpower conflict. That's a legitimate concern. Look at what happened to Wayland in the 1930s. Arcasia and United Cantana nearly destroyed it by proxy in a rush to gain access to its oil. Now Palais, may be sitting on an even more valuable resource. Lesbia's involvement with Pales is clear, but we haven't seen any signs that the CSP has designs on it. Do you think we should conquer Pales for its own good? It's not Pales' resource, it's ours. How does this involve Rizia? conquer is such an old-fashioned word. Think of it as a chess game. Sometimes it's best to remove certain pieces from the board before it's too late. That doesn't mean I think we should attack Pales again. Using diplomacy to get them on our side would be a more effective tactic. Wow, coming from her? Kind of strange. My war counselor is urging me to practice diplomacy. Now I've heard everything. War should be a last resort, Your Majesty, contrary to what your or my father would say. If you wanted me to, I could send a task force to Pales to monitor the situation more closely. My department has the funding already. Wouldn't eat into our budget. Do what you need to do. Thanks for the suggestion, but I'm afraid such an action would be misinterpreted as aggression. No, I want all of our intelligence capabilities concentrated on Zeal incident at the moment. Or respectfully refuse. What you need to do. Thank you, Your Majesty. Began to stand up. I appreciate you coming to me with this. Please feel free to express your unfettered opinions to me in the future. You can count on it. It's nearly 4. Let me show you something. She gestured to the stone wall behind us. A metal ladder led to the top of a small watchtower, now the fortress's highest surviving structure. Can't have it, no. Sorry. Uh-oh. Outbreak. Lucita scaled it in a matter of seconds. From this side, we could see Camp Domus, the country's largest military training facility. It stretched far into the distance with hundreds of barracks clustered around grounds that simulated all types of terrain. We looked down into the main square. A platoon of some 50 soldiers, mostly men, but a few women as well, was preparing for an exercise. Listen closely. Drummer to the side of the square beat out a complex rhythm on a snare. Long, short, short, long. That's an inverted wedge. Soldiers snapped into a V-shaped formation, narrow at the back and widening towards its front. Very impressive. The best trained soldiers in South Marcopa. Another rhythm came from the drum. 2 rim shots followed by a rapid roll. Extended lines spreading out into herringbone. Almost unconsciously, she started moving along with the soldiers, but as she put her left foot down, the section of wall beneath it suddenly gave way. Oh God. Began falling backwards. I could do nothing. I'm like, bye. No, we're going to grab her arm. I grabbed her arm and pulled her safely towards me. She looked at me in surprise, breathing heavily. Don't let go of her. I held on to her for a few seconds longer. Her eyes softened as they met mine. Nice reflexes, Your Majesty. Far below, a camera clicked. Uh-oh. A news photographer had managed to reach the base of the fortress and captured a picture of us. Lucita hurriedly stepped away from me, brushed herself off, and turned to the guards. Now, who the hell let that happen? You were to find that photographer and prevent the publication of that picture at all cost. Do not berate our staff, Duchess Azaro, but yes, I don't want this photograph getting out. You heard her. I'm embarrassed at this obvious security lapse. Or forget it, let the papers do as they will. See, that could... I wonder if this engine, the game engine itself, is deep to a point where we could play the press politics like that. My daughter dances with the leader of the other house. I'm caught in some type of embrace with House Azaro's head. Let the papers do what they will. Let's find out. This could be fun. He spun towards me. Really? I thought you wouldn't want the public to think anything was happening between us. And why not? You yourself said our houses should be more harmonious. Being seen with my arms around a gorgeous noblewoman will only benefit my reputation, wouldn't you agree? Here we go. Not going to pass up an opportunity twice. You say so. Smile was still on her face as we left the fortress. Outstanding. Romus the man. Here we go. And we are at the end of this turn. And the end of this episode. Ran a little longer there with our little advancing the personal agenda. Oh, man. Anyway, like I was saying, I don't know if the game mechanics support that, but if pictures of the heir apparent and the third house of Rizia's leader dancing and me with Duchess Azaro, who knows? Who knows? We'll find out at the end of the beginning of the next episode. Anyway, if you like this one, I hope you did. I had fun recording it, despite all the pausing and interruptions. And a 2-year-old that decides he can climb things and then has problems getting down, but tries anyway, which could be bad. I'm sure you understand if you're a parent. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you have any thoughts, tips, or advice, leave those in the comments below. If you want to follow along, hit the subscribe, and we'll see what we can do for Romus going forward. Jay76NY saying thank you very much for watching and have yourself a very good day.